Most people don't realize they hit a make or break moment in their lives when they hit this age 59. Now, most get it wrong and end up working longer than necessary because they didn't plan ahead. This is sort of a turning point, in my opinion, where everything changes. You got penalty-free withdrawals, tax strategies become more powerful, healthcare planning really gets real. And the biggest mistake that I see is not taking action in time. So today I'm going to break down the 3 critical changes that happen in the year that you turn 59, and more importantly, how to use them to your advantage, whether you're already retired or planning to retire early. So let's get right into it. Okay, so if you're planning to retire early, one of the biggest mistakes people make is paying more in taxes than they need to, pulling from the wrong accounts at the wrong time. And the problem is that when you're doing this over the course of a 20, 30, 40-year retirement, these small mistakes compound over your lifetime. And here's why, particularly age 59, there's a big change in terms of tax planning and investment planning. Number one, and most of you probably can guess this one, but before age 59 and a half, touching those tax deferred accounts, traditional IRAs, 401ks, means a 10% penalty on top of taxes. And that penalty disappears at age 59 and a half, giving you a lot more flexibility over how you access your money. Now, that's of course apart from the rule of 55, which is going to vary per employer. But again, 59 and a half is guaranteed access to your money, penalty free, and it also provides a tax saving opportunity that we're going to talk about a little bit here in a second. Secondly, we should talk about what else this key age changes for a lot of you out there. If you're like most people, you've likely been saving in your 401k for years. This is probably one of the most common ways that Americans build wealth. The problem is that many 401k providers offer very limited investment options, and when they do, they are typically very expensive. Active mutual funds. Now, here's a quick example of a fund I found in a client's 401k the other day. This is a target date fund for 2065. Now, if you look closely here, there's a 2065 retirement target date fund by T. Rowe Price and has an expense ratio of 0.64%. Now, let's say you have $1 million in your 401k, that's a hidden expense of around $6,400 per year. So the question is, are you getting value for that fund? Now, they didn't have, for example, this retirement target date fund, same kind of allocation, 2065, which charges only 0.08% per year, which is $800 per year. Now, I'm not saying that cheaper is always the best option, but you need to compare your options. And with most people, unfortunately, with your 401k options, you're very limited. But here's the key age again. At 59 and a half, most employers offer what's called an in-service rollover, which means you can customize your investments in an IRA for better value. And you can typically find much lower costs and much greater value. But we're not done quite yet, because like I mentioned earlier, there's kind of a new unlock here for taxes now that you are 59 and a half. And I want to show you why this matters. Because now that you're age 59 and a half, there's a little bit of a change when it comes to the ability to make Roth conversions and how you optimize those Roth conversions. Let me help you understand what I mean by that. Now, Mike, let's say he retired at 57. He wanted to do a Roth conversion, but he had a big problem. How can he pay the tax? He needed that cash in the brokerage account and the money to cover his income, right? And he did not want to start depleting that to pay the Roth conversion taxes. And secondly, paying taxes from his IRA before 59 and a half would have triggered that 10% early withdrawal penalty, making conversion really a terrible deal. But once he hit 59 and a half, everything changed. Now we're able to execute those Roth conversions efficiently, taking advantage of those really low tax years before required minimum distributions kick in. And by acting now, instead of waiting, he could potentially save hundreds of thousands of dollars in future taxes just based off his situation and have more control of his retirement income. And that will help him not be a victim to those really large required minimum distributions. And many people don't plan for this because they're simply unaware that it exists. But let's talk about the second part here, because if you ask most people why they haven't retired early, healthcare is almost always on the list. Now, why would that be the case? And because, of course, Medicare starts at age 65 and you want to have coverage before then. Now, COBRA, or a lot of people look at private health insurance, can be pretty expensive, but is there a smarter way to bridge that gap? Now, when or before you reach age 59 and a half, now's the time when savvy retirees start to plan ahead for healthcare. The first way to plan ahead is to put yourself in a position to leverage the ACA subsidies, Affordable Care Act subsidies, because if your taxable income is low enough in early retirement, you may qualify for healthcare subsidies that dramatically reduce your costs. I talked with someone the other day where their insurance costs are like $100, $200 per month because of these subsidies. So if you're strategic with your subsidies, health insurance won't really be much of a burden to you when it comes to your decision to retire early. The second thing that savvy retirees do is take advantage of maxing out your health savings account. Lastly is to build the healthcare bridge account fund. Now this is essentially a brokerage account or cash set aside to cover insurance from that age of 60 to 65, ensuring that you can retire before Medicare kicks in without worrying about those super high out-of-pocket costs. For example, I'm working with folks right now. We have structured essentially kind of a 4-year bridge using combination of HSAs, a taxable brokerage account, as well as a little bit of savings, so that by age 60, they have a plan in place so that when 65 hits, they haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on healthcare. And without having the stress to dip into those tax deferred accounts, they're going to drive their tax rate up. And the result is that they have a really affordable healthcare in their case. And then sometimes for many people, you can even target little small Roth conversions at a certain threshold so they could take advantage of that tax valley. So before age 59, it's really a key time to create a plan for healthcare if you want to retire early, because if you wait too long, at least for some people, healthcare uncertainty may keep you working longer than you really need to. But again, if you plan early, you don't have to wait until age 65 to retire. Okay, so another reason why everything changes in the year you turn 59 is that reality starts to kick in. You know, man, I've been working for decades now. I have a solid nest egg, and it all starts to come very real. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep on working? Did I save enough? Should I work a few more years? This is what I call the retirement wall. Now that's going to be the moment when there's a lot of excitement in terms of early retirement and should I do this? The good news is at this age, you have a lot more options that weren't available to you before. And you can avoid this retirement wall by starting to break through with planning. Now, what accounts are you going to withdraw from now that you can avoid penalties? And if you understand your withdrawal plan, you understand that if you optimize your tax bill, it can really stretch your retirement dollars much further, right? So 59 is a good time to potentially make a career shift. Some people I work with shift to more like a consulting role or passion work rather than completely stopping. And the good news is that, again, the retirement accounts can now sort of act like a tool for supplementing their income. But there's still one big advantage of the year 59 that we haven't talked about quite yet. And I think most people miss this in terms of their retirement planning. Now, one thing that changes dramatically during the year you turn 59 that no one really talks about is how your spending is going to evolve in retirement. Now, what do I mean by that? Most people think they need to budget the same way for their entire retirement, just inflation-adjusted spending over the course of your lifetime. But the reality is that retirement spending, the research shows at least, is more of a smile. Now, I've talked about this a lot in videos, but this is really a key year, right? You're going to enter the go-go years, right? The years where you're going to have the most amount of energy. Your active years, this is when most people are doing the most amount of traveling, their hobbies, they're spending money on experiences that they probably aren't going to get once they reach into their 70s. Like, there's a little bit of time left in the 70s, but definitely not in your 80s and your 90s when you call the slow go and the no-go years. And that's when, in those remaining years, healthcare costs really start to creep up. So again, the reason why this matters a lot during that age 59 is that I think this is a perfect time to rethink how you withdraw, how you allocate your savings. Instead of trying to stick to a rigid withdrawal rate like the outdated 4% rule, having a plan to adjust your spending could potentially mean retiring early. And for a lot of you, that might mean front loading your spending a little bit in retirement while you're younger and able to enjoy it more, right? And I recently worked with a couple, they had saved really aggressively, but at 59, they're really kind of hesitating to spend freely because they were, afraid of running out of money. It's a natural occurrence no matter how much you have. It gets a little bit more complicated when you're drawing down your assets. But the reality, again, that year, 59, you start to take advantage of that spending smile. We know that, hey, we're going to focus on experiences a little bit early on while your health is really strong, and then really be strategic about how we withdraw money from your accounts. In my opinion, at age 59, the worst mistake for those that want to retire early isn't spending too much, it's waiting too long and realizing you missed out on your best years. So if you're planning for early retirement, age 59 might feel really far away, or maybe sooner for some of you. But if you understand these milestones and you start planning ahead, you can retire smarter. And for some of you, that might mean retiring earlier. And for those that want to retire before 60, I have to admit it's not for everyone, right? So that's why I made a video going through some really honest advice that some of my clients have told me that can help you avoid having any sort of sense of regret. You should definitely watch that by clicking right here. Once again, this is Matt Calcagno, Certified Financial Planner Advisor over here at 1 Degree Advisors. If you'd like to talk to me or someone on my team about your plan to retire early, click the link in the description and we'd love to chat with you.